we could talk about these stories all day. That's a talk for another day. These stories.
Yeah.
What's going on, YouTube? It is Will here, back again once again for the second episode of the Gridiron Talk Podcast. Week 4 edition, obviously. Great games of football last week. Too many to count. I feel like most games last week were one-possession games. You know, you had the Bills game. That was a close one. The Giants game on Monday night, a close one. The Broncos game, even though it was a snooze fest, it was a close game. So a great week of football once again. My friend Joey, again, he did the thumbnail. We got. I have to actually check who we got on it real quick. But yeah, he did it again for me. I appreciate that, my man. Oh, it's Mark Andrews. Right here. Mark Andrews, Jalen Hurts, and Devontae Smith. So 2 Eagles players. But yeah, Shane, how have you been?
I've been doing good. You know, we tried recording my first personal podcast yesterday. It went well up until I realized that it cut halfway through, so we got to redo it. But that's going to be coming soon for me. You'll see me posting that on the same days Will drops the link for ours that we do currently. But you'll see the one I do on my YouTube and my social medias and even Spotify. I'm getting that working as well. So a lot of good things happening right now for both of us. So we're living life. You know, we're feeling really good. We're really good in a really good mental state. You know.
Yep. And at the end of the day,
also calling it I'm calling it the Ryder Rocket Podcast, just for you, Will, just for you.
Appreciate that. A little inside joke there. Again, that's a story for another day. But let's just cut all the small talk, cut the bullshit. People here. I mean, me and Shane, we could talk and shoot the shit all day long. But people here, they want to listen to us talk about football. So, do you have anything else you want to add, Shane, real quick?
No, let's get this started.
All right, so let's go over the post game between the Miami Dolphins and the Cincinnati Bengals. First of all, the Bengals uniforms looked awesome. They balled out in these uniforms, and the white tiger ones, awesome uniforms. Cincinnati beat Miami 27-15. Dolphins stats, obviously Tua was hurt for most of the game, so Teddy Bridgewater stats where he was 14 for 23, 61%, 193 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Leading rusher for Miami, Raheem Mostert, 15 carries, 69 yards. That's 4.6 a carry. And leading receiver Tyreek Hill, 10 catches for 160 yards. So, you know, the Dolphins, obviously, they didn't have Tua Tagovailoa for most of the game. He had a head injury, which I'll talk about more. But, Shane, what did you feel about Teddy Bridgewater's performance when he stepped in for Tua? Do you think he did pretty good?
I think he'll be okay. I don't think excuse me. I don't think the Dolphins will be as high powered. As we know, Teddy Bridgewater knows how to win games. He's been a starter before. He's a good quarterback. I just don't know how far the Dolphins. Yeah, I don't know how far. Because you obviously need a quarterback in order to win games. I don't know how far the wide receiver core of Waddle and Hale will be able to help him. So they're going to have to re-improvise their offense a little bit to fit Teddy Bridgewater if Tua is out for a long period of time, which it looks like he may be. So
again,
I think they're still, they're getting second opinions on him. So it's gonna be interesting how the Dolphins play here on out, because you got to think it's not only they got a good offense, but it's not that just that overall their team is young and very well. And they're chasing I think they're still technically first in the AFC. I'm not entirely sure. So they got to keep up with the Bills and the Chiefs. So we'll see how that goes for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think Teddy Bridgewater, again, it's not 2014 anymore when he was on the Vikings, but out of all the backups in the league, I'd say he's up there in the top 5. I mean, he was a starter last season for the Broncos. He was a starter for the Panthers the season before. So like you said, he is a starter quarterback talent. So I think he's in the upper tier of starting quarterbacks. Absolutely not. But I do think he is better than the likes of some lower tier quarterbacks such as Mitch Trubisky and Davis Mills, just to name 2. So that is good that they have a quarterback that they don't have a crappy backup. They do have a guy like Teddy Bridgewater. One thing I'm curious to see if it'll affect their offense is the fact that Teddy Bridgewater is right-handed and Tua is left-handed. because I think we talked about this maybe briefly last week, that having a left-handed quarterback, your whole offense is reversed. It's flipped. So now they have to scheme the whole offense for someone that's right-handed. Like they have to, kind of like redo the whole playbook.
I mean, I don't think, because most of that most of that offense is used to having to do that. Just because they had to switch it for Tua when Tua came in last year to start. So I think the only person that it'll affect a little bit is probably Tyreek Hill mainly, and then obviously Teddy Bridgewater as well, just a little bit. So they obviously flip it, like they flipped it during this week during practice, obviously, so they have a little bit understanding of what it is. And it does flip. It does cause a difference, but it's basically the same plays. You just flip it. So you just gotta be smart enough to know that it's kind of common sense. Like coming from me, I've had a left hand as like I may be a running back, but I've had a left-handed quarterback and a right-handed quarterback, not only in semi-pro but also in high school. So it's really common sense when it comes to flipping it. And if you know the offense, then you should have the common sense to understand what routes you actually have to run, no matter what hand throwing the quarterback is. But
so let's go to the Bengals stat line here. I know we talked about the Dolphins a bit. Teddy Bridgewater, we'll see how it serves well, and we'll talk more about that later. Obviously, Tyreek Hill has had I think the last week against the Bills, he had a pretty pedestrian game, but overall, like he's been really showing out for the Dolphins, and it seems like that he doesn't matter if he has Mahomes throwing to him or Alex Smith in the pass or Tua Tagovailoa or Teddy Bridgewater. Tyreek Hill is a beast, and that is good to see. So Cincinnati stats, Joe Burrow, Joe Shiesty, he's looking great after the first two sluggish starts. Joe Burrow was 20 for 31. That's 65%, not bad. 287 yards and 2 touchdowns. Joe Mixon, not too good, 24 carries, 61 yards. That's 2.5 yards per carry. He also had a touchdown. And T. Higgins, 7 catches, 124 yards, and 1 touchdown. So T. Higgins had a great game. So the Bengals offense finally seems to be clicking, which I'll go into detail more here. But I'll just go into that later. Obviously, like I said, Shane, the big talk of this game is the health of Tua Tagovailoa, who suffered a head and neck injury after being sacked. It seemed like to me that Tua was momentarily paralyzed. He couldn't move his hands. That was a scary injury. I think he'll be out a couple weeks. And what do you think? I mean, there's no way he plays next week. There's no way.
I personally don't think he plays until the second half of the year. You got to go back to the hit that he took against the Bills in the second quarter, I believe it was, right before halftime, or maybe it was right after. It was right before halftime. He kind of whiplashed against the turf or the grass, and he got up. He looked fine for about a half a second. Then he started stumbling. He felt fine right after. Then he almost completely fell, and one of his linemen caught him. And then they announced, they threw him back in the game, and he seemed okay for the rest of that game. And then obviously that hit. I think he's got a grade level 4 concussion. I think he does not return for most of the year. I think he comes back earliest maybe week 10. That's if the injury looks as bad as it did. Like I said earlier, I saw that there's certain doctors and second opinions that in Miami that Tua is being forced to go to get more opinions. Because obviously, whether people want to admit it or not, he is the future for Miami. I mean, he's proved it through the first couple of weeks already. And they played great with him. So it's hard to think that he's not their future at this point. So
I think the big thing with Tua, sorry to interrupt, but the fact that he was taken like right before Justin Herbert, he was in how quickly Justin Herbert broke out and how quickly how he developed and all that stuff. I feel like that Tua was dealt a bad hand, but like, all right, I mean, Jalen Hurts too. Like Jalen Hurts not led, but he took the Eagles to the playoffs last year. He had a factor in that. So I feel like all these quarterbacks in his draft class were having all this success, and you have Tua, who was just very not bad, but very like pedestrian through the first couple of years.
Well, you got it. Sorry for interrupting. Sorry for interrupting. I know where you're going with that. You got to think when he went back to Alabama, he replaced Jalen Hurts in that championship game against the Georgia Bulldogs. So he obviously knows the other side of being, the guy that's being trustworthy to step up in big games and games in general. And coming like from the foot, like obviously we've discussed this multiple times. Me and Will, Will's never played football, and then there's me who's soon going pro for it. That's where our different, not so much opinions, but experiences come into play. I've had serious concussions. My senior year, I had a terrible concussion. I was out the entire year, and that's roughly about 10 weeks. So. I imagine how hard it looked for Tua on both of those hits that he got, that he's going to be out for a little bit. And honestly, if he comes back any more before like 3 weeks from now, then I think that's a terrible decision on everybody's part. And you got to imagine somebody's getting fined if something extremely bad happens to Tua. Not even like physically, but like mentally, you know what I mean? So concussions is a physical injury, but it's way, if it's bad, it affects you mentally way worse. So you got to think years from now, what if this hit causes a string of CTE effects? You know what I mean? So, and Will, you know me, I'm really big on studies of CTE. So, but that's in the future. But for right now, I don't think he should play until at least week 10 if his injury is bad. If every doctor he goes to and says, it's just a minor concussion, regular standpoint for recovery, then you know what? We'll trust the doctors. But I don't know, man. Something's a little weird about it.
Yeah. So, funny you said that should they be fined? I actually said they should be fined. He wasn't well during the last game, like you said. He plays this game on a short rest, not even a week, a couple days. That's unacceptable in the current NFL era, which protects the players more and more. Tua Tagovailoa tweeted,
especially with head injuries. Sorry to cut you off again, but with head injuries, that's literally 4 days from the Bills game, and that game you got to think of all the small factors. That game was really hot. You had players cramping, so obviously he was probably dehydrated. He gets a head hit second half, or the first half, my bad, and then he stumbles right after, and then they send him out immediately in the third. Like, if you're gonna send him out in the next half, at least wait a quarter, let him get back to it. They threw him right back in there, and obviously everybody guns for the quarterback. So I overall, I agree with you. Somebody should be fined, whether it's NFL officials allowing him to come back, because you saw, I don't know if you saw the highlights of how bad he stumbled, but it looked like he was not in this world. I didn't see the hit that he took with the Vikings. I'll probably look at it after this podcast, but from what I heard, that it was a pretty violent hit, but legal but violent hit. But I do agree. Someone whether it's the Miami doctors, their personal staff, somebody's got to get fined if something bad happens to Tua.
Yeah, and like I said, Tua said, I'm feeling much better and focused on recovering so I can get back in the field. My teammates, he tweeted that. Again, going back to the Bengals, their offensive line's finally playing to their preseason hype. Joe Burrow was only sacked one time. They seem to be meshing, which we talked about last week. It takes time, and they played great. The Dolphins only got 3 QB hits on Joe Burrow as well, so they're finally starting to get into form. Chase, Higgins, and Boyd continue to provide a top 3 receiving trio, and week in and week out, one of them always has a good game. If Tyler Boyd doesn't step up, then Jamar Chase will. If Jamar Chase doesn't, then D. Higgins. They always kind of got each other's back. And my question for myself is, will the Dolphins' mediocre run game hold them back this season? I don't think so, because they're 3-1 and their run game has not really been the greatest. So that's that. I mean, I think as long as they got Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, this offense will be great. But yeah, Shane, did you have anything else you wanted to add between the Dolphins and the Bengals?
No, I just I'm really high for Tua, so I hope he isn't out for too long. And it's finally good to see that the O-line of the Bengals is starting to protect Joe Burrow like they're supposed to. They put in a lot of money this offseason just for that. So we'll see how that goes for the rest of the year.
So I'll start things off here, and then obviously, Shane, we'll just go back and forth. So my first game is going to be the New York Jets versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. Both teams are 1-2. With Zach Wilson expected to make his season debut, if all goes well in practice, which I believe he is playing, can the Jets achieve their best 4-game start since 2017? The Jets, on paper, I think we talked about this last week. They have such a bright future that the Jets look like they could be a contender in a couple of years, and that's really nice to see because the Jets have been really bad for really long, and it's finally good to see the Jets turn their future around. Both teams have young franchise quarterbacks at the helm that will dictate if each team is good in the future. Obviously Zach Wilson's the starter. Kenny Pickett is not starting yet. For Pittsburgh, hopefully he starts soon. I know me and Shane talked about that last week. How much more longer do they wait? Blah, blah, blah. We already spoke about that. The Jets have a young star in the making, Shane, cornerback Sauce Gardner. He has not allowed a touchdown in the NFL despite going against the likes of Mark Andrews, Amari Cooper, and Jamar Chase. What are your thoughts on Sauce Gardner? Do you think he's going to live up to the hype, or do you think he's going to eventually just become bad?
I think, personally, I think he goes over the hype. I think he's going to be the next, quote unquote, next Jalen Ramsey. He's got the swag, he's got the attitude, and he's obviously got the skill. I know a little bit about him. He went to Cincinnati, played against my Georgia Bulldogs, so I know how good he actually is. I've seen his film. He is the real deal. He's just gotta keep that attitude that he has right now.
No, I agree, and I know him and Derek Stingley were the two best corner prospects, which he's also having a great year too for the Texans, Derek Stingley Jr. But the thing with Sauce Gardner was that people thought he was overrated going into the season because he did not allow a single touchdown in high school or college. But people were like, oh, he went to Cincinnati. He went to a mid-major, so it doesn't really matter. Well, I don't really give a damn if he went to Cincinnati because allowing 0 touchdowns over, 3 or 4 years, however long he was there, is really, really impressive. That's like video game numbers,
And then also doing it at high school. I don't know where he went to high school exactly, but still being a top prospect and going to Cincinnati, which over the last couple of years, their program is a lot better than people think. They did deserve to be in the playoffs last year. And a big reason is because of Gardner. He locked it down. He locked pretty much everybody's top receiver that Cincinnati went against, and it's a big reason why they made it that far. So he deserves all the hype that he's getting, and I hope he continues his success. And he's going to be a star in the making. I don't want to be too subtle about it, but I think he's going to be like how it went from Revis to Norman, Sherman. Yeah, it's him. From Jalen, it's gonna go from Ramsey to him, and that's what it looks like. We'll see, but only time can tell. It's really hard to say that consistent, that good for that long at the cornerback position. So we'll see.
Yeah, and before I continue, when we talk about that Cincinnati team and who they played against, he was going against Jameson Williams, who was a first-round pick for the Lions. I know he's not played this year because he tore his ACL, and also John Mechie, who was also a second-round pick for the Texans, who is not playing because he has cancer. But he's going against NFL talent in college. He's shutting them down. And that Cincinnati team, they had a bunch of dogs. Desmond Ridder, I know he's not starting, but, he got drafted by the Falcons. You got Alec Pierce, the wide receiver for the Colts. This team, they, like you said, Shane, they were meant to make the playoffs. I think Sauce Gardner.
George Pickens is one of them. He went toe-to-toe with George Pickens in the game against Georgia. So a couple years back. And, you see what George Pickens is doing right now. But, Gardner is a dog. There's no other way to put it.
So continuing the topic, expect a very defensive game that runs off the ground game. The Steelers have Najee Harris. He is the focal point of their offense. When the Jets, with Zach Wilson being back, I think they're going to run the ball more so they don't risk more injury to his legs or just injury in general. So, they got Breece Hall and Michael Carter, two pretty solid running backs. Breece Hall was the first running back taken this year, and Najee was the first running back taken last year. So it's kind of cool to see that. And Shane, my question for you is, how well do you think Zach Wilson will play in his first game back against a historically stout and tough defense? Do you think Zach Wilson's going to have a bad game or a good game?
I think he's going to have a good game because the Steelers don't have T.J. Watt. Joe Flacco has been successful so far with this offense. So I think Zach Wilson will be even better.
Yeah, you can't complain. I mean, theoretically, the Jets should be 0-3, but the fact that Joe Flacco at least got them a win is pretty good. And the Jets team, like I said, this is going to be a bright future for this team. I think the Jets are fun to watch, which is something I haven't been able to say since 2010 when they had Darrelle Revis and Antonio Cromartie a long time ago. So and LT and Mark Sanchez, that Jets team. So my prediction is I think the Jets win this game, nail biter, 21-20, very defensive game. But what do you think, Shane? Who gets the win here, the Jets or the Steelers?
I think the Jets get it too. I think it'll be 23-17 Jets.
Should be a good game.
Yeah, it should. On to our next game. We have the Seahawks versus the Lions. After a tough loss against the Vikings, the Lions looked kind of a bounce-back game against the Seahawks, who are struggling a little bit. And the Lions look impressive. I don't know if you watched the highlights of the Lions-Vikings game last week. Jared Goff hasn't played this well since his Super Bowl run with the Rams. And Jamal Williams is looking like he was back in 2018, 2017. Overall, Seattle has the worst team when it comes to stats. Their offense is, I believe, 28th in the league for total yardage, and then for defense, they're 29th. So is this my question for you here, Will? Do you think the Lions are legit this year? Do you think they have a shot, like any type of shot towards playoffs? And do you think this is a tank year for Seattle to get themselves some really good draft picks?
I'm going to answer the second one first because that's an easier question. Yes. All of the mock drafts that I've been looking at has Ohio State quarterback C.J. Stroud going to Seattle. So to make it simple, yes, I think it is a tank year. I mean, you lose your franchise quarterback, this is what's going to happen. You got to go into a rebuild, so that's pretty simple. The other question, the Lions. I think the Lions are basically the NFC's equivalent of the Jets. What do you think about that?
See, I think the Lions have a better shot than the Jets because the Lions have the talent that can produce right now.
Right. No, I agree because Jared Goff is better than Zach Wilson right now. And Jared Goff has proven that he is a pretty not great, but a solid starter. And like you said, they got the talent right now. Like they got Amon-Ra St. Brown. Unfortunately, he won't be playing. But you got DJ Chark. I know he's hurt, but Jameson Williams when he's back, that's a pretty good receiving core. You got T.J. Hawkinson, who's a great tight end. You got DeAndre Swift. He's not playing, but him and Jamal Williams are a great backfield duo. On the defensive side of the ball, you got Aiden Hutchinson from my school, Michigan. He's been having a great rookie year. Jeff Okudah, who's been having a great bounce back year after being the third overall pick as a corner from Ohio State. People put him off the bus. He's having a great year. So I think this Lions team is going to be great and a great. I'm talking like great in a couple years. But this year, I don't think they'll make the playoffs. I just think the Lions are like a year or two away from making a wild card run. But Dan Campbell is a hell of a good coach, and he does not get enough credit that he deserves. And this offense for the Lions is really good.
I think if they played most of their games how they played against the Vikings offensively, because like I said, I don't know if you watched the highlights, but they were doing. St. Brown went off. I think he had I can't remember how many catches, but he went off. He had a lot of good plays. Williams, he went off. And you're right. Swift is another great running back that they have. So what I think is holding the Lions back is their schedule. Mainly, like over the next couple of years, obviously Rodgers is still with Green Bay, so they're going to have to face Rodgers, and Rodgers is more than likely going to, beat the Lions. But I think the Lions do have a shot as a wild card, but a lot of things have to happen for that to happen. But we'll see. They're an impressive team. I'm very impressed with the Lions.
Yeah, they got a great offense. You can't deny that. I mean, the how much points they're putting up is insane, and you can't deny the fact that the Lions' offense is definitely in the
overall right now they're a good team. If after this year, when they have a little bit more experience, I think they'll be a great overall team. They're like what team can I? There's not really a team I can really think of off the bat that is where I think the Lions are going to be They're like the Eagles. I think they're going to be like next year's Eagles. You know what I mean? They have the roster talent. Now can they execute?
Right. Who do you think's going to win that game, Shane, between the Seahawks and the Falcons?
I think the Lions are going to win this game, 24
Oh, the
to
Seahawks
10.
and the Seahawks and the Lions. I apologize. I don't know why I said the Falcons. 24 to 10.
24 to 10 Lions. The Seahawks they're not impressive at all. They got I believe a fluke win over Denver, and I honestly think that's going to be one of their only wins this year. So 24-10 Lions.
I'm gonna have to agree. I'm gonna give it to the Lions as well. I'll say 30 to 16. I got Detroit winning. But like you said, Shane, the future is bright, and Detroit and like I said for the Jets too, both two teams that we just talked about back to back that have great futures. So let's move on to our next game. This is going to be a game that has interesting complications. We got the Cleveland Browns, who are 2-1, versus the Atlanta Falcons, who are 1-2. Nick Chubb continues to have a great year. He leads the league in rushing yards after 3 weeks, and he projects to have another great week against a weak defense. A great week against a weak defense against the Atlanta Falcons. I know the Falcons somehow they've been stopping the run somewhat well, but the Falcons do have a pretty bad offense or defense. I mean, now the Falcons on the offensive side of the ball actually looks like it's fun to watch. They have Drake London and Kyle Pitts. They both are looking great, and they are the future of this team on the offensive side of the ball. And it's not what's the word I'm looking for. It's good to see all this young talent on this team, and it really makes you wonder like how well this. I know another team we were talking about with the future, but Drake London is looking to be a star. He was the first receiver taken. I know some people are turning heads. They were saying maybe they should go Garrett Wilson. Maybe they should go Drake London like they did, or Chris Olave. And I've liked Drake London since he was at USC. He reminds me of a lot of like Mike Evans. He just goes up and gets it. He's not known for his route running. He's just known for his catching, and he's proving that now. Kyle Pitts, I think me and you have talked about him in the past, Shane. He's just a generational talent at tight end. If you take a tight end at 4, they got to be pretty damn good, and Kyle Pitts is just a beast. So, Shane, my question for you is, how long do you think Marcus Mariota will be the starting quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons? He turns 29 in about a month. He seems to be past his prime, but he did sign a 2-year contract, so he'll be with them at least all of this year and all of next year. Do you think that he'll be their starting quarterback, or do you think they'll eventually give the keys to the offense to Desmond Ritter? What do you think about that?
I think, depending how he does this year, I think it really depends on in the offseason, what happens in the offseason. Maybe if they don't have the best record in the world later in the year, they take him out and they test the rookie. Like week 15 or like 16, 17, 18. But we'll see. I think it really depends on how he performs this year. Because you can't a lot of critics will say like, oh, he's had 4 bad games, take him out. It's 4 games. A lot of elite quarterbacks have like 2 to 3 bad games a year. So you can't, you can't really base it off of 4 games or 3 games, I should say.
Right.
But like I said, I think time will tell for a lot of these teams and a lot of their situations with a lot of players. So they just got to step up. You know what I mean?
Now, one thing that's not in Desmond Ritter's favor, and I guess his odds don't favor him this way. And I don't know if I was talking to you or someone else, but I think people, NFL fans, and this is okay, they don't realize how unlikely it is to find a quarterback that's not a starter past the second round. I feel like everyone feels like the next Tom Brady is always a 5th round draft pick or a 6th round draft pick or whatever. When the odds of that happening are so slim, it's like insane. And the fact that Tom Brady was a 6th round pick and he turned out to be as good as he was, is like almost like impossible to repeat. And I think people take that for granted. And what I mean by that is they're like, oh, like Desmond Ritter's going to be the starting quarterback for the Falcons. He was a 3rd round draft pick. Well, that doesn't really mean a lot, because if they liked him, they would have taken him in the 1st round, the 2nd round, So the odds of him being the franchise quarterback for the Falcons don't look good. But like you said, I mean, if he plays the last 3 games and he shows out, we'll see, because he reminds me a lot of like Mac Jones, where he's like NFL ready. He knows what to do with the ball. He's a smart quarterback, and you can't really teach that. And he reminds me a lot of Mac Jones, and obviously Mac Jones is a lot better, but I think you get what I'm saying. That's how smart he is with the ball. He's not stupid. He knows what to do and stuff like that. So going on to the Browns, if the Browns keep on playing like they have been playing, they should be kept afloat until Deshaun Watson comes back because, it seems like they're playing pretty good, and that's the big thing here. And this is about Myles Garrett. Unfortunately, he will not be playing because he got into a car accident. And Shane, my question for you is, do you think Myles Garrett will have any long-term health effects to affect this play after getting into this car accident? Do you think he'll be fine?
I haven't heard of anything that has really affected him from the accident that I know of on social media. Sorry. So I think he'll be okay long term. He'll probably be back. I don't know what injuries he occurred, if any.
He hurt his shoulder and his bicep.
So yeah, so maybe he might be back next week. We'll see. As someone who's been in a car wreck, I know how it feels. So I hope he's back soon. But time, I feel like I say this all the time with a lot of stuff, but time will tell. And I think they'll be okay without him this week.
So Shane, what's your pick for this game against with the Cleveland Browns against the Atlanta Falcons? Who do you got winning this game?
I have the Browns winning this game in a low-scoring affair, 20, let's say 20-19, Cleveland.
I got Cleveland winning as well, a little bit more high-scoring because Nick Chubb, he's a beast. I know you like him a lot from Georgia. I think Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt are going to run all over them. I got the Browns winning 27-24, a little bit of a closer game.
All right, and we'll move on to our next game. It will be the New Orleans Saints versus the Minnesota Vikings. After a somewhat come-from-behind victory over the Lions, Kirk Cousins and the Vikings play the Saints in the neutral site game in London. Last week, last week the offense looked slow in the beginning, and what really kept them in the game was the run game with Dalvin Cook, and their passing game with the running backs and fullbacks. Can Kirk Cousins pick up the pace on offense a little bit more against a struggling Saints team? A couple updates. Michael Thomas will be out and possibly Jameis Winston. I think it is confirmed Jameis will be out for this game, and Andy Dalton will start. So my question for you here, Will, is with everything that's going on with the Saints and their team, a lot of key players have missed games, like Alvin Kamara missed a game. Jameis is injured with his somewhat serious back injuries, what they're quoting it as. And then Michael Thomas is out as well. Do you think the season is already over for the New Orleans Saints?
Wait, hold on. What did you say? I'm having my drink. No, it's not a beer. I'm having a cranberry juice. It's really good. I want to tell you that, Shane. Anyway, do I think the season's over? Absolutely not. It's only week 4. There's no way it's over. It's way too early to say that. And the whole thing with the Saints is this team's built on their defense, so I think that they'll be fine personally. But time will tell. They got Chris Olave. He's showing out as a rook. We'll see. But I don't think it's over now. I think it's way too soon to say that. There's only a couple of teams where I say the season's over, and the Saints are not one of them.
I mean, personally, I think they need to figure out why all their players are getting hurt. Because we've seen this, Michael Thomas. I mean, I feel like he's more hurt than he is playing. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then I feel like they need to figure out what's wrong with Jameis because, as a quarterback, like we were talking about Tua earlier, if they get hit, and there's certain injuries that have long-term effects, and a back injury is one of them. So it's going to be interesting to see how they play against the Vikings defense, who came up big last week against the high-powered Lions offense. So, who do you got winning this game?
I think in London it'll be a fun game to watch. I feel unfortunate for all the UK fans. They get to watch Kirk Cousins and Andy Dalton play. So it's whatever though. Definitely, and also it's going to be really early on in the morning. It's going to be happening at 9:00 our time. They're a couple hours out of us in London. 9:30 in the morning. Yeah. So I think it'll be a fun game to watch, mainly because of the Vikings offense, like Justin Jefferson and Thielen and Dalvin Cook, and they're all fun to watch, especially against the depleted Saints offense. I got the Vikings winning somewhat comfortably 31-20. What about you, Shane?
I'm with you. I think the Vikings win this one 27-13. I think Justin Jefferson has a big game. Adam Thielen was the one last week that came up big multiple times for Kirk Cousins. I think Kirk Cousins balls out again. I think Dalvin Cook runs for 100 yards, and I think Vikings win this game.
Now let's move on to our next game, which is going to be a very emotional game, as this is the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are 2-1, versus the Philadelphia Eagles, who were the only undefeated team left, 3-0. Now, Super Bowl winning head coach Doug Peterson makes his return to Philadelphia in his first game back. Now he's the coach of the Jaguars. He took the year off, so it'll be interesting to see how he gets to react. If they boo him, then that'll be crazy because he won the city a Super Bowl. And like I said, the Eagles are the only undefeated team for a reason. They are really good. Their only question mark on paper on their roster was Jalen Hurts. He's proving all of his doubters wrong. I think the Eagles, people are really thinking the Eagles suck, and it's just like, nah, I think they're really, really good, and people need to respect them for who they are. This team is going to be dangerous, and, it's just not, they got a great roster. Jacksonville upset the Chargers last week, and Trevor Lawrence finally looks like all of his hype is justified. Doug Peterson and this new coaching staff and his new weapons are really making him a much better quarterback. So the Eagles have a top 10 passing offense and a top 10 running offense. Shane, who can stop them? Or do you think this team is, right now, on paper, going to go to the Super Bowl? Or do you think they have one kryptonite that we're not looking at?
I think there is a kryptonite, and I think I wouldn't say it's their competition, but I think they haven't gone toe to toe with the powerhouses of the NFC, if that makes sense. What I mean is, last year they struggled in the wild card game against Tampa. They didn't do much. Obviously they got good drafts. They signed some players. They got AJ Brown, but they haven't been tested in that way. You know what I mean? And then you also got to think of the Packers as well. Aaron Rodgers is still here. Tom Brady's still here. What other NFC teams?
The Rams.
The Rams, defending champs. They're struggling a little bit right now, but they're gonna pick it up. So I'd say right now on paper they're looking real good, but we've seen this before where very unrecognizable teams come out, play great the first 5 weeks, and then teams that I wouldn't say shouldn't be this good, but then end up just falling out. We saw it with the Steelers a couple years ago. Now, granted, they're not as talented as this Eagles team is, but that's just an example. So,
or even last year we saw the Panthers started the season off 3-0, and they finished 5-12.
Yeah. So it's the NFL. Anything happens. So anything can happen and will happen. So, I think they're a good team. I'm not going to write them down as Super Bowl caliber yet, but I do think they win their division 100%.
Now, Shane, I think you kind of already answered this. Are the Eagles overrated, or do they deserve all the hype they are getting? You're saying, what did you say about that?
I think they deserve the hype. If there's people out there saying Super Bowl bound, I think it's too early to say that. So if you're asking me, if the question is, do you think saying they're Super Bowl bound is overrated, then yes, I do. Playoffs, yes, 100%. I think they will make the playoffs. But Super Bowl, big games happen in the playoffs. They're going to have to face, either Tampa or Green Bay at least once. So those are really, or even, LA. So we'll see when it comes to Super Bowl round. But right now, I think they're properly hyped right now.
Now, my question about the Jaguars, I didn't really talk about them a lot. I know I said they look a lot better than they did last year. The fact that they have tied their win total from last year in 3 weeks or close to it is pretty good. Or maybe they won 3 games, but you get what I'm saying. They're stepping in the right direction. Doug Peterson arguably should still be the coach of the Eagles. Like I said, he won them their Super Bowl, and now, he got fired, which is kind of baffling to me. But Shane, so my question about the Jaguars is, do you think they have a shot at winning the AFC South? It is a weak division, And the preseason favorites, the Colts, are struggling. They're 1-1-1, and the Titans are struggling. They're 1-2. So do you think the Jaguars have a shot at winning the AFC South, or do you think either of those teams will leapfrog them?
I think the Jaguars are extremely underrated, and I do think they have a shot. I'm not completely sold that they'll win it. We might see the Titans. I mean, last year the Colts started out, I think, a little bit sluggish as well, and they ended up, getting better throughout the year. So I think we'll save that question for like halfway through the year, and then I'll give you a definite answer. But right now, it's kind of a flip of the coin. If they continue playing like they have been playing, I think they take the division. But Trevor Lawrence has got to keep playing well. That defense got to stay locked down. So right now, I think they're in the running for either the first or the second spot.
I'm going to go see the Jaguars play the Giants, and I'm really obviously looking forward to see the Giants. But I'm really happy to see the Jaguars play and to see such a great young team and a great young talent that is Trevor Lawrence. I'm very excited to see that. But this game, I think in Doug Peterson's return to Philadelphia, I think the Eagles do win this game 31-21. I think it'll be a good game, though, and I really think it'll showcase two young, talented quarterbacks in Trevor Lawrence and Jalen Hurts. What about you, Shane? Who do you got winning this game?
I have the Eagles winning it 31-27.
Ooh, a little bit closer, huh?
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think the Jaguars are extremely underrated. I think their defense is underrated, and I think this is an underrated matchup. I think this is going to end up being the best game of the week, outside of the Chiefs and the Bucks. But this game is going to be interesting to watch. Okay, so next game we were just talking about them, the Titans and the Colts, Tennessee versus Indianapolis. The Colts and Titans both came into the season considered co-favorites to win the AFC South, as Will mentioned. But there's still a lot of questions hanging both over both these teams' head. Indianapolis front line has allowed the third most sacks this year, and the sixth highest sack percentage at 9.3%. Can they fix this problem? And for the Titans, it's. I mean, everybody knew this, but this year so far, it's been proven they cannot win. They cannot dominate like they did unless Derrick Henry dominates. So my question for you here, Will, obviously it's Derrick Henry versus Jonathan Taylor. Will Derrick Henry dominate the Colts defense, or will Jonathan Taylor outduel him, and who wins this game?
No, that's a tough question. I gotta go with Derrick Henry based on who's been better overall for career wise, but it'll be a fun game to watch. Two great running backs.
Sorry to cut you off. But these two, Derrick Henry got hurt last year, and Derrick Henry was the only one that overall had the better year up until he got hurt, better than Jonathan Taylor. There's no other running backs. So you got to think these two, without Henry getting hurt, these two would have been the best two running backs last year. So it's going to be a good matchup.
100%. And I think anyone that likes to watch more of a running game, people like my dad, older football fans, this will be the game for you to watch. As you got two great running backs in their prime. Arguably, you could say Derrick Henry's past his prime. I disagree with that, but Jonathan Taylor's in his third season. He's already really, really good. So it'll be fun to watch, and it'll definitely be able to see like what team will ride the hot hand in the running game and who will win. I personally think the Colts are going to win. I think they have just a better roster overall. They've been injured, and I really think their slow start is not good. Like, does not show you who the Colts are as a team. But what do you think about that? Do you think the Colts are better than their record shows, or no?
I think they are to a certain point. Matt Ryan, it's been questionable how he's been playing. He's had a good game, and then he's had questionable games. So, sorry. And I need some water up in here. I think it really depends on the running game. Who outduels each other, whether it's Henry or Taylor. Henry looks like he's starting to get it going again, so I'm gonna side with the Titans. I think Ryan Tannehill comes back and proves why he's the most non-consistent, great quarterback in the NFL. And I think Titans win this one in a low-scoring game. I feel like a lot of times they'd be taken off the clock because of the runs. I think it's going to be 18-14, or 17-14. My bad. Tennessee over Indianapolis.
I think the Colts are going to win. I think the Colts are win this game in a low-scoring game, 17-10. Picking a really low-scoring game, or 17-13. I'll say. I think it'll be a very low-scoring game though. That, like you said, like we reiterated, that goes off the run game. So next game I want to talk about here is actually my team. We got the Giants. We got the Chicago Bears, who are 2-1, playing the New York Giants, who are also 2-1. Two biggest surprises of the early season are the successes of these teams. Two historically good teams have been a bit of a funk recently, but are these teams heading in the right direction? I think they are. Only time will tell. I know I'm posing a lot of theoretical, future questions that we can't really answer yet. But yeah, the future does look bright. Definitely for the Giants. I'm not even trying to be biased there. The Giants do look like they have a great future and they have a great coach. So it's good to see that as a Giants fan.
I can second that. I do believe the Giants are key pieces away from taking over that division.
So yeah, Justin Fields going to the Bears. He struggled passing the ball this season. He only has 297 passing yards throughout the season. When Joe Burrow literally had that almost yesterday Thursday. So Justin Fields passing the ball has been terrible. But the Bears have been winning games regardless. So the media seems to think that he is not the future. You got people saying oh, he can't pass the ball. He's terrible. Blah blah blah. What do you think about that, Shane? Do you think that that's true, or do you think it's way too early to say that?
I think it's bullshit. Sorry for the language, but I think it's bullshit. They have not given him the opportunity. He threw the ball, I believe, 9 times against I want to say it was the Packers. 9, 10, 11 times. You can't that. You're asking him to get 10+ yards a pass, and I think he only completed 8 of them. So, to me, I don't think it's Justin Fields. I think it's the play calling. Give this guy an opportunity. He's athletic. If he can't pass the ball, he's gonna make some moves with his legs. I think this is the best situation the Bears could come out of, getting Justin Fields, and I think they need to start pushing the pedal for him and stop being idiots when it comes to their coaching staff. They need to get better offensive coordinators, coaches that'll build and make play calls around their quarterback, who is a dual threat. So I personally think Justin Fields is perfectly fine, and I think it's the play calling.
Yeah, and I think the issue with the Bears is they have never had a really good quarterback. I mean, you could say Jim McMahon for the 85 Bears, but this is not a team. When you think of the Bears, you think of a team that relies on their defense. I mean, let's be honest. You think of their Bears, they're always known for a good defense.
The only quarterback you really think of being quote-unquote good was the 1 year with Mitchell Trubisky, and then maybe the 2 or 3 year span with Jay Cutler. And you got to think, they've never had a dual threat quarterback. Dual threat quarterbacks are coming more and more as the league goes on. So the Bears, they're an old style team, like you said, defense oriented. They've never had a dual threat quarterback, so they don't know what to do with them.
Right, and that is a big factor in that. But I feel like that the Bears, like I said, they've never had a good quarterback. When your best quarterback in this whole century, this millennium, is Mitchell Trubisky, that's all you need to know. Let's be honest. But
then a second running is Jay Cutler. You just gotta get
exactly. And it's it's actually crazy is that the Bears made the Super Bowl in 2006, and they why'd they get taken there? Because of people like Charles Tillman, Peanut Tillman, Brian Urlacher. That's why they went to the Super Bowl, because they had a great defense. But anyway, I'm going off topic. But now the Giants. Now Saquon Barkley. So I'm a Giants fan, but I'm not going to be biased to this. I'm not going to say outlandish shit about the Giants. But no, on a serious note, Saquon Barkley looks up to form again for the Giants. His health is key for this offense to succeed, especially since Sterling Shepard is out for the season with a torn ACL. Saquon Barkley, has been dealing with injuries the last 2 years. His first 2 years, he was great. Last 2 have been plagued with injuries. And Saquon, knock on wood, he looks great this year. Would you agree, Shane?
I agree. I think the only other running back in the league right now that's looking better than him is, like you said earlier, Nick Chubb.
Yep. Daniel Jones, obviously quarterback, he has not looked terrible, but this is a question for both of us. Why is he getting so much hate for the Giants' loss to Dallas last week? You look at Daniel Jones. Did he make that one interception at the end to Trayvon Diggs? Yes. But if you look at what happened, you could see that he was targeting David Sills, who happened to slip on the end route, and then Daniel Jones threw it. He was on the ground because he fell, and then Trayvon Diggs picked it off. But, Daniel Jones was getting pressured I think he passed the ball 38 times, and he got pressured 25 of them or something like that. Definitely more than half of his times he was pressured. So why is Daniel Jones getting so much hate, Shane?
Personally, I don't think it's so much hate. I think it's the hypocritical, biased football fan base that watches the game because it's society's way of making you look like you're interesting human. I know I'm attacking a large group of people, but I don't really care. I don't think he should have any hate whatsoever. If you asked me this question last year, I would have said, well, he's terrible, which he's not this year. He's actually playing really well. I think they need to their line has always been the problem. Whether it's rushing, passing, and I think you could have agreed to this being a fan. I think one thing they need to work on is their blocking. Like you said, 25 out of the 38 times you throw the ball, you're getting pressured, and that's on dropbacks. That's not good at all when you really think about it. That's over, doing the math here, I think that's over 75% of being pressured.
It's definitely over half, obviously, and definitely over 60%. But yeah, and they're making strides the right way to protect him. Andrew Thomas, Georgia, left tackle. He is been the highest rated left tackle on PFF the first 3 weeks. He's looking like he's going to be an all-pro. That's awesome, right? You have Evan Neal, who he had a bad game last week, the rookie out of Alabama. But, the Giants look like they're taking a step in the right direction to making the offensive line. And, playing offensive line in the NFL is not easy. In Evan Neal's defense, it's your third professional game, and you're going against the likes of Micah Parsons, who me and you talked about a lot last week, and DeMarcus Lawrence. You're going against these two great pass rushers in your third game. That's going to happen,
And you got to think of it like this. You mentioned, those two names are rookies. That's two starters out of five. That's roughly, 35, 40% of your offensive line is their first couple of games. So the rest of the guys got.
Andrew Thomas isn't the rookie.
Yeah, my bad. I don't know why.
Yeah. I know what you're saying. Evan Neal is a rookie, and rookie right tackle. But yes, I get what you're saying.
So you gotta this stuff like this is gonna happen for any team. So it's really just molding them all together. And we talked about this with the Bengals. Basic fans don't understand when it comes to linemen. The offensive line, yes, on paper, they may all look like all pros, but if they don't play together, they don't understand the system, it's not going to work as well as you want it to. You gotta let it form.
Right. And about this game, I know I said it's about the Jets game, but this is going to be a very old school game, very defensive and run heavy. Both teams have a solid run game that fuels each team's offense. With the Bears, they like to run it with, Khalil Herbert because Montgomery's not playing. And, they got Justin Fields who can run. And same thing for the Giants. Daniel Jones is a dual threat, surprisingly. And they got Saquon Barkley. So I think, Daniel Jones is sneaky athletic. I don't think people realize that. He's
I 100% agree. He's kind of
athletic, but he is.
Oh, yes. I'm trying to think of a quarterback that would, that's kind of, I don't want to say Josh Allen because, obviously, we've seen him hurdle people at 6'4", 250. So, I'd say he's like a young Big Ben. You know what I mean? He's sneaky athletic.
Yeah.
Because when Big Ben came in the league, he was sneaky athletic. But continue what you were saying, Will.
No, I just was going to say that I think the Giants are going to win this game 20-17, a very defensive game. Giants defense has been looking good. Expect a big game from Kayvon Thibodeau. I know he didn't really do much last game against the Cowboys, but expect him to have a good week, Kayvon Thibodeau. So, 20-17 Giants. What about you, Shane?
I think the Giants are going to win this game 27-17. Like I said, I think the Bears need to figure out and make new plays to help their quarterback. And I don't think it's going to happen against this defensive line of the Giants. All right, so on to our next game here. We have the Chargers versus the Texans. Two struggling teams face off in Week 4. Both of these teams need a win. It is Week 4, so they have times, but they're in a they can't afford the Chargers can't afford a third straight loss, and obviously the Texans need to get their first win. Last week the Chargers defense had no answers for Trevor Lawrence or their running game. They had 0 sacks and they gave up 413 total yards. The pass defense of the Chargers has not been the greatest. It's an issue for them. They're ranked 20th, while their rushing defense is 12th. So my question here for you, Will, would you consider this a bounce back game for the Chargers, for Herbert, and do you think the Chargers will finally get into a groove after this game, or do you think the Texans upset the Chargers like Jacksonville did?
No, I mean, I think the Chargers, again, you don't want to say need to win because, like you said, it is early, but like you have a division that has that talent of the AFC West. I know the Raiders are still winless, but the Raiders are a lot better than 0-3, let's be honest. And you got the Broncos and the Chiefs. Like, you can't afford to be losing. Like, the Raiders, this is like, and I know we're not talking about them, that's a must-win game for them this week. You know, you can't be 0-4 in that division. And same thing for the Chargers. They can't be 1-3 in that division that's so tough and so good.
Sorry to cut you off, but you got to think in this division as well. There, a lot of the teams. This was hyped up as the hardest division, and looking at the records, it looks like it, but it's against other teams that they should have won. The Broncos are struggling. The Chiefs lost to the Colts, and now they got to face a tough Bucs defense this week. So a lot of these teams, they have these. I wouldn't say, like you said, must wins, but the games they need like. Can't even say need. If they win this game, it's going to help them a lot, you know? Right. I agree with you.
Yeah, and it does hurt that Rashawn Slater, their Pro Bowl All-Pro left tackle for the Chargers, is out for the season. That hurts a lot. He's great. And Justin Herbert, we don't even know if he's healthy or not. He's keeping his medical stuff private, which that's completely fine. But it just kind of is not concerning. What's the word? It's very just you want answers. Like, you don't know what's going
sketchy.
on.
It's a little sketchy.
Well, I don't want to say sketchy because it is his choice. He doesn't have to reveal it to the general public what he's doing to get healthy. But it's just as confusing. It's well, is he okay or is he not? It's just kind of he's being vague. Vague, that's the word. He's being very vague about it. So we don't even know if he's healthy or not. He's not really explaining it.
No, I agree.
So who do you think's to win this game?
I see. After last week's performance against the Jaguars, I want to say the Chargers, but like you said, we don't know about Herbert's condition. On paper, it's Chargers all the way. So you know what? I'm gonna trust the analytics behind it. I'm gonna say Chargers win this game 24-10. This Texans team is only scoring on average 16 points a game. That's 26 overall in the NFL, and their defense is kind of they're ranked 15th, allowing almost 20 points a game. So I'm gonna say Chargers win this game.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree. I think the Chargers win 30-13. Again, it should be a good game, and hopefully Justin Herbert comes back healthy, and that his health, if he actually is healthy, is going to be a big question mark to see if the Chargers are going to be able to contend for the Super Bowl, because they do have one of the best rosters on paper. You cannot deny that. So let's get into our next game. We got the Buffalo Bills. This is going to be a great game. The Buffalo Bills and the Baltimore versus the Baltimore Ravens. Both teams are 2-1. Two MVP candidates playing, which would be an awesome game. Josh Allen versus Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson has looked insane this year and is a man on a mission. wanting one of the highest paying contracts in NFL history, and God damn it, he deserves it. How he's playing, I'm gonna be blunt. I'm gonna be simple. I'm gonna keep it real. He's playing like he earns it. He's deserving it. The Bills lost a very close game last week to Miami. What confuses me is that people are like, "Oh, the Bills are no longer Super Bowl contenders." It's like, shut the hell up, okay? No team is going to finish 17-0 and never lose. Okay, teams are going to lose games. It's a part of football. It's a part of sports. Okay, and it's just very annoying that look at the Bengals. They lost 7 times last year and they went to the Super Bowl. And people are number one. They're like, oh, the season's over. People are just idiots about this. I think the Bills are still the Super Bowl favorites. They're still the best team in the league. You can lose a game by 2 points. And basically, you're about to win. You just ran out of time because you didn't get to spike the ball in time and be fine. There's no need to panic. It's fine. Do you agree with that? You think people are overreacting about the Bills?
I believe, I 100% believe that, and I think that's just basic football fans in general. I mean, the real fans of the game that understand the game understand that. It's just certain fan bases, certain analytics of the game gets very frustrating. And I had a convo with one of the high school coaches in the area around here, Will, and he agreed with me. He's a lot of it is analytics and people who don't understand the game that are saying stuff about the game. It's a real shame that sometimes stuff like this is said. And I think the Bills are still AFC, the top of the AFC, and NFL for that matter as well.
Yeah, and like I said, they can lose games, and that's completely fine. Again, no team will be undefeated. So Lamar Jackson is proving right now he's their offense, whether it be with his arm. He's got Mark Andrews, who's a great tight end, and Rashad Bateman, who is stepping up to be their number one guy, or his legs. As long as he is healthy, Baltimore will be an excellent team. Who is a bigger MVP candidate right now, Shane? Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson? I think it's Lamar Jackson, or do you think it's Josh Allen?
I think it's Lamar Jackson as well. You just look at the stats. You look like what and don't get this twisted. It's not like Josh Allen is a one-trick pony. He can run, he can hurdle people, he can do everything Lamar Jackson can do, but he can't do it as fast. That's the only thing.
Right.
And one thing that he can do that I would say Lamar can't is he can get physical. Lamar is kind of that get away from me type of quarterback. Elusive, yes. Well, Josh Allen, I mean, he can hurdle people, he can juke people, but man, that's a big man coming at you at a quarterback position, and he's not afraid to lay the boom, as Ray Lewis would say. But I think right now, the way Lamar Jackson's been playing, it's a lot more impactful for the Ravens than the way Josh Allen's been performing for the Bills.
Next one I got is, will the injuries in the Bills secondary be a factor in the upcoming weeks, or was that just an off week last week? I think it was just an off week. I think they're going to eventually just work with what they have, and they'll be fine. But again, you have, like you said, the casual football fans are like, oh, well, the Bills are going to go into a slump now. It's like, whatever. It's like I can't even talk about it because people just annoy me like that.
No, I feel you. I don't think they'll go into a slump, but I think it will be the vocal point of this game, and I think it will decide whether how great Mark Andrews plays and the rest of that wide receiver core for Baltimore plays. Excuse me. I think it will be a big factor. I'm not saying the Bills are going to lose because of it, because I do not have the Bills winning in this game. I do have Lamar and the Ravens winning. But I think that's going to be the deciding factor, just because, like we said, Lamar Jackson can throw the ball, and he's proven that he can. But he can also do it with his legs. So the secondary's got to be prepared for both of that. So, and with how inexperienced they are, I don't think they're ready for it.
My last question for you, Shane, is that this is going to be all you. I won't even comment on this. Both drafted in 2018. Lamar Jackson was taken 32nd. Josh Allen was taken 7th, I believe, or 8th. Let me see. I'm going to have to check that right now. And if I got that, because I swear I did not check.
I believe you're correct. I think he was drafted 7th. I know you got. I think Lamar was drafted.
It was right.
Look at you, Will. Big round of applause for Saquon over here.
Yeah, that's crazy, but I knew that. But anyway, so my question for you, Shane, is they were both drafted in 2018. Which QB has had a better overall career between these two of them? Their first
Lamar Jackson.
4 years. Their first 4 years. You think their first 4 years in the NFL? Because Josh Allen has had more postseason success. He's been to the AFC title game, all that, and Lamar Jackson hasn't. But like, if both of these quarterbacks retired right now, who do you think would have a better chance of getting into the NFL or the Hall of Fame? I mean, right now. I got to go. He was the MVP.
That's what I'm saying. You got Lamar Jackson's got the MVP, and then he's also got. He already looks like he's better than Mike Vick. Like don't take that the wrong way towards Mike Vick, but he already looks like he's a better dual threat than Mike Vick ever was. I mean, but Josh Allen brought the Bills to the playoffs multiple times so far. Wow, I'm gonna have to go with Lamar Jackson. He's got the MVP. He's proven, like, he may not have like the postseason success, but he's made it to the postseason. So he can obviously lead a team just as well as Josh Allen can. As if a few different things go Lamar Jackson's way, maybe he could have ended up in the AFC title game. So I'm gonna have to go with Lamar. He's got the MVP and he's got the stats to back it up as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's Lamar. Postseason out of the picture. He did win the MVP. And
there's quarterbacks that led great playoff runs that aren't in the Hall of Fame. Mark Sanchez, Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow is a perfect example. Mark Sanchez when he was with the Jets. I can't even, Josh Johnson with the Bucks. There's many of them. So I think Lamar. I think it doesn't really care how far you go into the playoffs. Overall, your stats are you're going to be in the Hall of Fame. Plus, the MVP helps a lot as well.
Right. So who do you think will win this game?
I think, like I said, I think the Ravens win this game. I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be 31-30 Ravens. High-scoring game.
It's hard to go against the Bills. I think the Bills win this game 31-27. But it'll be a great game. It's one of the best games this week.
You said that last week about the Bills. How did that fare against you, my guy?
Yeah, I know. But it really is.
I think I said the same thing, but I'm. But I'm just bursting in your bubble. But yeah, it's gonna be a good game for sure. All right, on to our next game. We got a NFC East matchup. We got the Commanders versus the Cowboys. After a big win against the Giants, can the Cowboys keep this momentum up against the struggling Commanders? Cooper Rush has stepped up as the backup role for Dak Prescott. And he is looking really good. Micah Parsons is looking really good as well through 3 games with, I believe, he has 4.5 sacks. Is he the key to this team to keep this defense good and to keep the Cowboys race with the Eagles? And I'll consider the Giants because I think it's going to be a 3-way battle up until the end of the year to keep them up front with those 2 teams. And my question for you here, Will, I know you're very high on Parsons. I believe I asked you this question about Darius Slay a couple weeks ago. Is Parsons an early contestant for Defensive Player of the Year?
100%. I mean, how could you say otherwise? And like I said last week, he's a freak athlete. He's a beast. Hard to go against him. He does it all on defense. Very few players, and all does it well. Very few players can say that about themselves. So, yeah, I mean, I can't really – I think it's Michael Parsons is an early candidate for the Defensive Player of the Year. Hard to go against him.
All right, and then my second question for you here, Will, is do you think – there's a lot of memes out there about Cooper Rush and him taking over Dak Prescott. Do you think Cooper Rush is playing – a lot better than people expected? And do you think if the Cowboys continue to have this success with Cooper Rush, do you think they keep playing him? Like when Dak comes back, do you think they do a little bit of a dual competition or a dual QB type of style? Or do you think Cooper Rush is thrown right back on that bench when Dak comes back?
Oh, he's going to go right back on the bench, 100%. I mean, Dak Prescott has that contract. He's getting paid a lot of money. You're not paying him to be a backup. You're paying him to be the guy. So there's that. And you can't start Cooper Rush when Dak's okay. Like, you can't. Let's just not. No.
All right. Who do you think's going to win this game, Will? I know we didn't really talk much about the Commanders, but there's not really, much we can say about them. They're not really playing. There's not really any key things that's going on for them. They're playing mediocre so far. They're in a division where they're kind of the afterthought of it at the moment. So what do you think the Commanders need to do to get to the level to where the Cowboys, the Giants, and obviously the Eagles are at?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I really feel like it's just like Carson Wentz. Like, if he plays fine, then they'll be a good team. If they don't, they'll struggle. I know last week, he got over. Yeah, did they play the Eagles last week? I think they did. He got sacked a lot, and that does not help, obviously. And that's not the recipe for success in baseball, in football. But yeah, like, you can't have your quarterback get sacked 9 times and expect him to do well and win. Like, that's just not how it works, So I think Ron Rivera and Carson Wentz, that's a solid, coaching quarterback duo. And they have the talent on offense. They got the pieces. It's just to see if Carson Wentz and the offensive line can't allow him to get sacked almost 10 times,
No, I agree. For me, I think no, he's not. It's just he doesn't really have a lot of support around him besides Ron Rivera. So it's really Carson Wentz kind of went into he was kind of in a difficult situation post Super Bowl era of the Eagles, and now he kind of fell into a worse situation with the Commanders. So it's going to be interesting how the season plays out for him. I have the Cowboys winning this game 24-10. There's not really much to say about this game. I know we talked a little bit about a lot of details in the other games, but this one there's not really a whole bunch besides Micah Parsons and Dak, the Cowboys. So what's your prediction for this game, Will?
I think the Cowboys are gonna win this game as well. I'll say 21-13. It'll be a little bit of a different score, but same general concept, like you said, Shane. It'll be a easy W-ish for the Cowboys. So we're almost done here. I got 2 more to go. I think, Shane, you also have 2, right?
I have 3.
Oh, you have 3. Okay, word. So let me go into my last one before we get into the primetime games. We got the New England Patriots versus the Green Bay Packers. The Patriots are 1-2, and the Packers are 2-1. Aaron Rodgers has looked pretty pedestrian this year. That's okay. They're winning games, and that's not really – that was expected. That was expected because his wide receivers are mediocre or unproven. So that he was not expected to put up the MVP numbers like he has. The Packers' strength this year is their defense, which their defense looks great. But this makes this matchup even tougher for the Patriots without Mac Jones and the Packers' tough defense. Mac Jones isn't playing. He suffered a high-grade ankle sprain, and he's not playing. Brian Hoyer will. The Patriots are a run-first team, but obviously Mac Jones is a lot better of a quarterback than Brian Hoyer.
Brian Hoyer is the best backup I know. Just want to throw that out there. I think he's the best backup in the world.
The Patriots will heavily rely on Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson this week since Mac Jones isn't playing. The Packers' run defense had no issue last week in slowing down Leonard Fournette, though. So it might be tough sledding for the Patriots this week. This is also a little bit of a fun fact. This is the first time Aaron Rodgers is playing the Patriots without Tom Brady on the Patriots. And Shane, I only got one question for you. This is a pretty straightforward game. I think the Packers are easily going to win. You got a backup quarterback playing against a team with this team, and the Patriots team on paper isn't even the best. So my question is, will the Packers wide receiver room hold this team back, or will they get better with playing? And should they sign a free agent wide receiver like OBJ or T.Y. Hilton?
I think they should definitely sign. I wouldn't say OBJ because I don't think he'd work well with Rodgers. I think T.Y. Hilton would be the perfect option for them. And I do think this wide receiver core will hold them back when they get into the playoffs. I don't throughout the regular season. I don't have any doubts the Packers will once again win their division. It's just when playoff time comes against, like I said, defense wins championships. They're gonna have to face the Bucs again more than likely, or the Rams defense. Jalen Ramsey is going to lock up. On paper, Jalen Ramsey, he could have a broken toe or a broken foot, and he could lock up these receivers that the Packers have. So it's really depends on can they get better, which I don't think they can. I think they can get a little bit better, but not NFL playoff caliber type of wide receivers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because that's the only hole on this team is their wide receivers.
I think that's what ends them, and I think it's their kryptonite. Obviously, their defense as well, but I think in the end, this is just an experience year for the wide receivers. It's kind of I wouldn't say it's a rebuild year, obviously, but it's kind of like that in the way where it's like, well, it's very unlikely this receiving core is going to help Rodgers win the Super Bowl. So, I think they should go out and get an experienced wide receiver like you said, like Hilton. I don't think OBJ would fit that system, just because he's not in his prime anymore, so he can't really be the main target. Plus, he's still recovering from that ACL tear, I believe, or meniscus tear, one or two.
ACL.
But yeah,
right.
but that's all I got to say about that.
Who do you think wins this game?
I think the Packers win this game, obviously. Brian Hoyer is my boy. I love Brian. He's a great backup, but I don't think he can stand toe to toe with Rodgers for 4 quarters. I have the Packers winning this game 24-9.
I got the Packers winning a somewhat similar score, 27-14. I think the Patriots are toast this week. Their offense will be very sluggish, and Bill Belichick's going to be pissed.
Oh yeah, he's gonna look like Darth Vader this week. On Monday, it's gonna be bad. Moving on to our next game, we have the Cardinals versus the Panthers. A pair of 1 and 2 teams face off in an NFC matchup. As the Panthers host the Cardinals, the Cardinals are averaging 353.3 yards per game on offense, which is 15th in the league. Their passing attack is 13th with 248 yards per game, and then they're 17th with 105 rushing yards per game on the ground. The key here is kind of their defense. Their defense is allowing almost 385 yards a game, which is 23rd in the NFL. But the good thing about it is their rushing attack is 11th. They're allowing 100 plus, but it's keeping them in the game. What's killing them is their passing. Their passing defenses, which is terrible. They are 30th in that when it comes to that. So it's going to be interesting how they can handle the Panthers' offense. Their offense hasn't been playing very well. And then Christian McCaffrey is questionable with a quadricep injury, which is always a big blow to this offense. So I only really have 2 questions for you here, Will. The kind of basic questions. Question number 1 is, can Kyler Murray start playing at the elite level that everybody's saying that he can? Like, he's going to start carrying this offense. I know D-Hop is out, so it's kind of hard. And then question number 2 is is Christian McCaffrey starting to become one of those running backs that is just too injury prone to have on your roster?
The CMC one, yes. I mean, I don't really care how good he can be, because he doesn't play. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I mean, it's like this. Imagine like Tom Brady, how good he is if he was always hurt. It wouldn't matter because you can't play. You can't stay healthy. So again, that's my thing. I think it already is. He is the injury prone running back with risk. He can give you 20 fantasy points every week theoretically, but if he doesn't play, then it doesn't really matter. You can't help your fantasy team or the Panthers. And the Kyler Murray in the offense, yeah, I mean, I think this offense will be really good when DeAndre Hopkins comes back, so I'm not really worried about that. But if they continue to struggle when he is back, then you got to start pointing a finger at someone like Kyler Murray or the play calling or something. But I think this offense will be fine when DeAndre Hopkins comes back. A very scary offense when DeAndre Hopkins comes back. With him, D-Hop, Marquise Brown, Zach Ertz, Kyler Murray, that's a great offense. So that's my stand now. What about you though?
I honestly think they'll be I don't want to say the Cardinals of last year, but I think their offense is going to get more upbeat. it's harder for Kyler Murray, especially at his stature and his like what he has going for him to really make a difference without someone like D-Hop. We saw it in the Raiders game. He was be able to win with his legs. But, you can only do so much when you have 11 guys coming after one midget. You know what I mean? So I don't blame Kyler Murray. I blame the tools around him isn't as good as what he needs to succeed. You know what I mean? It's not like he does need the tools, but he's still performing well without D-Hop. So it's just the rest of the team's got to step up. That's plain and simple, and they need to design plays better for him overall. I do have the Cardinals winning this game, but it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be 28-27 Cardinals.
I got to disagree with you. I think the Panthers are going to win. I think the Panthers win 28-24. But a lot of question marks on this game. Potentially both coaches are on the hot seat if they lose. So it'll be interesting to see that pan out and play out,
I feel like every head coach is on the hot seat for the Panthers ever since Ron Rivera left. Just because they're, like you said, CMC's always hurt. They don't really have a key guy. Their next key guy is Baker Mayfield. So that's what that kind of shows you how depleted their roster really is in talent. So, it's just a tough place for a Panthers fan at the moment.
You got one more before we get into our primetime games, right?
Yeah. My bad. I didn't even realize you had less than I did for a second. So our next game is the Raiders versus the Broncos. We talked a little bit about these teams earlier. Starting out, this is a question for you here, Will. I'll ask you this afterwards, but I'll just get into more of the preview. Derek Carr and Devontae Adams have to find a way to get this offense going to win games against a possible bounce-back game against Russell Wilson and the Broncos, who are also struggling. Both teams were very high this year in the offseason, but so far underperforming to say the least. My question is, number one, do the Raiders start to panic after this 0-3 start, and do they especially start to panic if they lose this game? And who do you think will get back on track first, the Broncos or the Raiders?
Yeah, I think the Raiders, this is like, I know we said, it's technically not a must-win for this team, blah, 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 but this actually is a must-win. You cannot be 0-4 in general, but like especially in that division, that's just a death sentence. So the Raiders really need to win this game. And I think the meshing with the Broncos offense, that will come with time. I think that their Broncos coach is a nut job. I think he's not a good coach, but regardless, Russell Wilson and the receivers like Sutton and Judy and KJ Hamler, they will develop chemistry as Russell Wilson and them get to play with each other because they didn't play at all in the preseason. So yeah, I think that'll come with time. But yeah, the Raiders definitely do need to win this game, 100%. Must win.
I agree. It just sucks seeing someone like Russell Wilson, and I'll say Derek Carr for that matter. Two really good quarterbacks, especially Russell Wilson, who has Super Bowl experience. He's been in 2 Super Bowls. He was part of the Legion of Boone team. And he's made great plays. He's had great success, and then he left Seattle, and now he's with a crackhead head coach and it's just a bad. I wasn't on the hype train for the Broncos in the offseason. I was only behind them because of Russell Wilson. But, time will tell. Like you said, this team needs to mesh, and it needs to mesh now. Who do you have winning this game?
I got the Raiders winning. I know that the Raiders are 0-3 and the Broncos obviously are 2-1. But the Broncos' wins have all been ugly wins. They scored 11 points to win and won. Like, what the hell? Like, that will probably not happen again. Like, 11 points in a football game is like what? And they scored 16, 16, and 11. That's terrible. But their defense is really good. Obviously, their defense has allowed 17, 9, and 3 or 10. So that's really good. But yeah, I got the Raiders winning this game. I think the Raiders win 20-7 or 20-17. Yeah, 20-17. But yeah.
Back just a small recap back to that point. That's roughly 15 points a game you're scoring. and then I believe 11 points a game you're giving up. So 15 to 11 ratio, I'm not confident with that. So they definitely need to get better. Like you said, they may be 2-1, but I personally don't think they should be 2-1. I think they should be right where the Raiders are at. I do have to agree with you though. I do think the Raiders will win. I think it's going to be a 21-17 game. And I think Devontae Adams he came here to dominate with Derek Carr, and he's not doing that. So I think he's got a chip on his shoulder this week.
Right, I agree. I 100% agree with that.
All right. Are you going to do your game first, or do you want me to move on to the to my next game? Or
let's do your last game because it's Sunday night.
All right. I figured you'd say that, so I just wanted to make sure. So the Sunday night game, it is confirmed this game will still happen with everything that's happening in Florida. So just before we get into this game, my condolences and my prayers are to everybody in Florida, except for one girl. But that's a different story for a different day. But Will knows what I'm talking about. But anyways, back to football. The Chiefs versus the Bucs will happen in Tampa Bay. It's going to be interesting to see how this game will look, considering the hurricane that's happening in South Florida. This game will still continue. Both teams coming off tough losses. The Chiefs giving up the comeback victory to the Colts, and then obviously the Bucs losing 14-12 against the Packers. The Bucs offense has really struggled so far this year, and it's their defense that's really been holding them down. Can Brady get this team going? 45 years old. He's not supposed to be carrying this team like this. He really needs to, get Mike Evans back and, get this offense really rolling so he doesn't have to carry so much load at, 45, 46 years old. For the Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes has started off great, but this defense needs to stop choking on these big-time drives. And if they are going to beat Brady, it needs to stop. So, obviously in the offseason, this was a key game, but now it's kind of like the hype kind of went down with how the Bucs have been performing as well as the Chiefs. My question here for you, Will, clean cut. Who do you think wins this game and why?
I like the simple question. No pulling bullshit. Who do I think's gonna win?
No bullshit. This is Patrick Mahomes versus Tom Brady. I think part 4 or part 3 maybe. But I want to hear your answer. Yeah, something.
Assuming they don't play in the Super Bowl, this will be the last time they play. I think it actually is 3-2 in favor of Brady because he beat him in the AFC title game in the Super Bowl. But anyway. Who do I think is going to win? I think it's going to be the Chiefs. I think Tom Brady, I'm not trying to jinx anything, I think he's finally reached his peak. And do I think he's bad? Absolutely not. No, I'm not saying he's bad. But I do think that he cannot put up the numbers he did last year. I'm not really sure why. I don't know what really happened. Maybe that month off where he retired, end quote. Kind of he didn't really probably practice or whatever. I'm not really too sure. But you can just tell that something's off. And I really feel I can't really explain it. His offensive line is depleted. That doesn't help, but I think the Chiefs win this game. Their roster is just much better. Mahomes is a better quarterback right now than Tom Brady. So I got the Chiefs winning 31-24. What do you got, though?
It's hard to go against my Bucs, and I'm not going to again. I think the Bucs find a way. They got Evans back. You are right. Their offensive line is depleted. This defense isn't the best defense for the Chiefs. Meanwhile, on the other side of the ball for the Bucs, their defense, Devin White, he just won, I believe, NFC Defensive Player of the Month, I believe, or the week or something like that. Devin White's been balling out. I'd say he's an early contestant, as well as Micah Parsons, as we discussed earlier, for Defensive Player of the Year. I think this is a low-scoring game. I don't see these teams going back and forth like they did or like they were predicted to do in the Super Bowl. I think this game stays close, and I think it's going to be 21-20 Bucs.
Should be a good game, though, on primetime on Sunday night. This should be a fun game to watch, though. At least I hope. I don't want it to be like the Super Bowl where it's a blowout.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like the same result for the blowout, but hopefully it's good, and it's going to be interesting to see if weather has an effect on this game too. Like I've said multiple times, there is a hurricane in Florida, and it's going to be interesting to see how that will affect how these teams play. Because I don't know if you would agree on this statement, but I think the Bucks have a way better rushing game than the Chiefs. So maybe this turns into an old style, rushing the ball in the rain type of game, kind of like in the 50s, the 60s, and 70s. So it's going to be interesting to what comes from this game.
Right. So let's get into the last game of the week, Monday Night Football. We got the LA Rams versus the San Francisco 49ers. The Rams are 2-1. The Niners are 1-2. This fierce rivalry, can't talk, meets for the first time this season after meeting 3 times last year. San Francisco swept them in the regular season, but the Rams got the last laugh. Oh my God. And they won the third and final game in the NFC title game. Can Jimmy G bounce back for the 49ers? He had a poor performance against the Broncos, but he has proven that he can lead this team to a Super Bowl. He just has to make the right throws / decisions down the stretch. Tale of 2 completely different offenses. The 49ers love to run the ball. But, Kyle Shanahan's offense, that's all about run. While the Rams, on the other hand, are the opposite. They love to pass the ball with Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp. Can the 49ers' new look offensive line slow down Aaron Donald? He has only 1 sack in the last 5 games against the 49ers, and he will be key to neutralize. But what do you think? Do you think the Niners will slow down Aaron Donald? Or do you think he has his first big game against them in a while?
Here's Mike. I'll give you a bounce back question. Do you stop the Hulk with a human? No. It's Aaron Donald. I don't care what he's done in 5 games against San Francisco. It's Aaron Donald. There's no Trent Williams. Who's Trent Williams is the only man in this league that I think that can go toe to toe with Aaron Donald when it's a 1v1 blocking competition. We'll say. I think Aaron Donald has a big game, especially him. I don't think the 49ers have a chance at all. And I disagree with you. I don't think Jimmy G is that good. I mean, I love the guy. He's a likable guy, but I mean, I think that one year when he went to the Super Bowl was kind of a fluke, and he didn't really do much. I mean, he threw 9 passes in that Super Bowl. So
the NFC title game, he threw 9 passes.
But I just think this is an easy win for the Rams. On paper, it may say the same thing, but for me, the way I've seen these teams play, I think Aaron Donald starts to become Aaron Donald again. Bobby Wagner, he shows he's still got some game left in him, and then obviously the best corner in the game right now, Jalen Ramsey. So, and then Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp. I just don't see how the 49ers can win this game.
Do you think Matthew Stafford is going to incorporate Allen Robinson to the offense more, or do you think it'll still be all Cooper Kupp? I'm not sure why Allen Robinson's not really getting incorporated, because we do know he has talent. I know maybe Matthew Stafford just feels more comfortable throwing to Cooper Kupp because he's been on this team. He's been there since Allen Robinson's new. But what's your theory for why Allen Robinson's not really doing much?
I think they understand the talent Allen Robinson can bring to this offense and the type of distraction he can as well. Because you say 2 years ago, Allen Robinson is a better wide receiver than Cooper Kupp. I think any fan would say that prior to Cooper Kupp's season last year. And I think it's just learning the offense. I think it's as simple as that. I think they're giving him time to learn the offense, see what this offense is about, because he's obviously going to have a key factor in it. I mean, you don't really see wide receivers not being implemented unless, something big is that come from it later on. You know what I mean? It's kind of like weather. It's kind of like the calm before the storm. You know what I mean? Type of situation. I think Allen Robinson. I generally do believe that. I think Allen Robinson is going to have a key factor, not as much as Cooper Kupp, but I think he's going to have a big distraction to this offense, and defenses aren't going to be ready for it.
And just a little bit of a not like I guess a fact is that the 49ers have held all their opponents to under 20 points this season, 19, 7, and 11. And I think that trend continues in this game. I think San Francisco continues their dominance against LA in the regular season. I got the 49ers winning 20-17. This will be a great game, though, to watch on primetime. On another good week of football. This was one of the best ones we got. But who do you think wins this game, the Rams or the 49ers?
I think the Rams win this game 24-10. I think their offensive line won't be able to handle the rush, especially without Trent Williams. That is a big loss. He could have retired 2 years ago and he would have made the Hall of Fame. He's that good of an offensive lineman. And without him helping, stop Aaron Donald, who can stop him? Obviously, Jimmy Garoppolo's not going to outrun him. I think Aaron Donald runs a faster 40 than Jimmy does. So I have the Rams dominating this game.
So that concludes the Week 4 edition of the Gridiron Talk Podcast. If you don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends and family. If you guys have any topics you guys want us to mention, it again, comment it down below. But Shane, do you have anything really to add for the outro? Do you have anything you want to say?
Go Bucks, go Brady. Sorry for the little inappropriate comment earlier about Florida, but I had an opportunity to make an impact, so I had to. I know Will got a good laugh out of it.
Yeah, inside joke.
Inside joke, people. No, thanks for listening to the podcast as always. Thanks for the support. Like Will said, please share, friends and family. There's a couple people from work I'm going to send the link to that's interested because they think they know football and they don't. Just because I know what they say at work, they don't know football. But anyways, I have nothing really else to say. How about you, Will?
No, just stay tuned for next week on Saturday for the next episode of the Gridiron Talk Podcast. Like I said, like, comment, subscribe. I don't really have anything else to say. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, guys. Don't forget to watch the football games today, the college football games, and the games tomorrow and on Monday.
Go Georgia!
A lot of games. So, don't forget to watch football. And, hope you guys have a great weekend, and we'll see you guys next Saturday. Thanks again for watching, guys, and stay tuned.